September 13th, 2025. A date that signals a dramatic shift in the Pacific's power dynamics. The Indo-Pacific has become the globe's most scrutinized hotspot, capturing the focus of leaders, military strategists, and experts everywhere. U.S China tensions are intensifying, turning the Pacific Ocean into a theater for strategic competition and military brinkmanship. Taiwan sits at the heart of this rivalry, but the consequences extend to Japan, Australia, and are redrawing the region's alliances. The Philippines, positioned at the heart of the South China Sea, has emerged as a crucial U.S. ally, straddling vital shipping routes and disputed waters. New agreements have expanded U.S. access to Philippine bases, strengthening ties and underscoring a renewed pledge to regional defense. The most striking evidence of this alliance, a U.S. military runway rising on a secluded Philippine island, has captured the world's attention. This development is a direct answer to evolving security challenges, as both sides scramble to adjust to new risks and opportunities. The U.S. is shifting its approach, moving from massive, exposed bases to a more flexible, distributed force ready to respond at a moment's notice. This strategy, called Agile Combat Employment, or ACE, seeks to make American forces less predictable, tougher to target, and more robust against attacks. By dispersing assets and personnel, the Pentagon complicates enemy planning, forcing adversaries to reconsider their tactics. The new runway is more than concrete and steel. It represents a shift in U.S. military thinking and sends a clear signal to both friends and foes. The core objective: deter conflict by making any attack on U.S. forces far more challenging, raising the risks for any would-be attacker. In the Pacific, traditional strategies are no longer sufficient. The front line has moved, and with it, the tactics and partnerships shaping the region's destiny. At Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, the U.S. Air Force recently staged an elephant walk, dozens of jets and support planes taxiing in tight formation. This dramatic display showcased the scale and readiness of American air power in the region. The exercise tests the ability to launch a massive wave of aircraft quickly, a crucial skill in a crisis. It's also a message to allies, a reassurance of U.S. commitment. To rivals, a warning of American capability. These drills prove the base can shift to a war footing instantly. Beyond the spectacle, crews practice repairing runways and handling simulated attacks. Such exercises keep U.S. forces sharp and ready for any contingency. The message is clear. The U.S. and its allies are prepared to respond to aggression. Readiness and deterrence go hand in hand in the Pacific. American air power here is a force to be reckoned with. China's rapid missile buildup is reshaping U.S. strategy in the Pacific. Over 2 decades, China has developed thousands of accurate ballistic and cruise missiles. Many can now strike U.S. bases in Japan, South Korea, and even Guam. The threat? A massive missile barrage could cripple U.S. air power before it can respond. Runways, fuel depots, and parked aircraft are all prime targets. Once considered safe, U.S. bases are now on the front line. Planners must assume their airfields could be hit in the opening hours of conflict. The sheer volume of Chinese missiles makes defense extremely difficult. Even advanced missile defenses can't stop every incoming weapon. This new reality forces the U.S. to rethink how it operates in a contested environment. Surviving the first strike is now a top priority. The U.S. must adapt to ensure its forces can fight back, even under attack. The missile age has changed the rules in the Indo-Pacific. American air power relies on a few critical, fragile elements, especially runways. Without a runway, even the most advanced jet is grounded. Enemy missiles don't need to destroy every plane, just the runways. Aerial refueling tankers are another weak point, large, slow, and easy to target on the ground. Losing tankers would drastically limit U.S. jets' range across the Pacific. The U.S. has concentrated its power in a handful of super bases, like Kadena and Guam. These bases are packed with aircraft, making them tempting targets. Concentration creates vulnerability. A single attack could cripple U.S. air operations. China can focus its resources on these known locations, simplifying its attack plans. The U.S. must break this predictable model. The challenge: make air power less dependent on a few fixed, vulnerable sites. Dispersal is now essential for survival. To counter growing threats in the region, the U.S. military is adopting a new strategy called Agile Combat Employment, ACE. This approach is designed to keep American air power flexible, unpredictable, and ready to respond at a moment's notice. Instead of relying on just a handful of large, well-known bases, the Air Force is now spreading its forces across a wide network of smaller, more austere airfields. These locations are often remote and less developed, making them harder for adversaries to target. The new runway at Basa Air Base, located northwest of Manila, is a cornerstone of this evolving plan. Its construction marks a significant upgrade in the region's military infrastructure. By upgrading this airfield, U.S. aircraft gain another critical location to operate from, making it much more difficult for any enemy to predict or disrupt American air operations. In the event of a crisis, jets can quickly move to Basa to avoid attacks on larger bases, or use it as a forward staging point for rapid deployments and emergency missions. Every new runway that comes online adds another layer of complexity for adversaries, while increasing the survivability and flexibility of U.S. forces in the region. The U.S. isn't doing this alone. It's working closely with key allies like Australia and Japan to expand access to even more airfields, strengthening regional partnerships and collective defense. The ultimate goal is a distributed network of airfields that can support ongoing operations, even if some bases are damaged or taken offline during a conflict. Building and upgrading these runways is a long-term investment in resilience, ensuring that U.S. and allied forces can adapt and recover quickly from any attack. This shift in strategy may be quiet, but it's absolutely crucial, helping to ensure that U.S. air power can survive and operate effectively in the missile age, when threats can come with little warning. The new runway at Basa is a practical, tangible step in a much broader strategy to keep the U.S. and its allies ready for whatever comes next. Ultimately, it's about making the vast Pacific region a much harder target, one where U.S. and allied air power can endure, adapt, and prevail. One of the most significant vulnerabilities in the Pacific is known as the shelter gap, the stark difference in how the U.S. and China protect their air bases. Over the past decade, China has constructed thousands of hardened aircraft shelters, massive reinforced concrete bunkers designed to shield their jets from missile and bomb attacks, making them far more resilient in a crisis. By contrast, most U.S. military aircraft in the Pacific are left parked in the open, lined up on wide, exposed ramps with little to no overhead protection. In the event of a missile barrage, these unprotected planes become easy targets, vulnerable to destruction before they can even take off. This imbalance means that, in a surprise attack, China's air force is much more likely to survive the initial strike, while America's could suffer devastating losses on the ground. The shelter gap could tip the balance of power in the opening hours of a conflict, giving China a critical advantage and potentially shaping the entire course of a war. Recognizing this urgent threat, U.S. lawmakers and military leaders are now sounding the alarm and calling for immediate action to close the gap. The Pentagon is under increasing pressure to accelerate the construction of hardened aircraft shelters at key Pacific bases, investing in new infrastructure to protect valuable assets. This effort extends beyond major hubs, reaching into new, dispersed locations such as recently established bases in the Philippines, where construction of additional shelters and airstrips is already underway. Protecting aircraft on the ground has become a top priority, with new security measures and patrols being implemented to safeguard these critical resources. Building and maintaining these shelters is a fundamental step to preserve U.S. combat power, ensuring that American air forces can survive and respond effectively to a first strike. Closing the shelter gap is essential, not just for deterrence, but to keep U.S. air power credible and ready in an increasingly contested region. Defense experts say the U.S. must rethink its Pacific strategy for the missile age. Instead of seeking total air superiority, the focus should shift to air denial, making it too risky for adversaries to operate. The U.S. should invest in diverse capabilities, not just large jets needing long runways. Long-range standoff weapons, cruise missiles from ships, subs, and bombers are key. Aircraft with short or vertical takeoff abilities can operate from damaged or improvised fields. Logistics is critical. Pre-positioning fuel, ammo, and parts in secure, hardened sites is essential. These supplies must be in place before a crisis, as resupply will be dangerous. The era of safe overseas bases is over. Resilience and adaptability are now vital. Policymakers must choose wisely where to invest: shelters, new weapons, or logistics. Adapting strategy is not weakness, it's survival in a changing world. All these moves, military displays, new runways, hardened shelters, serve one goal: peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The U.S. isn't seeking conflict, but aims to deter it by making war too costly for any aggressor. Deterrence relies on credible, resilient forces that can survive and fight back. Dispersing aircraft, building shelters, and expanding bases are defensive, not provocative steps. The U.S. must reassure allies and deter rivals, without sparking an arms race. Every exercise and construction project is carefully calculated and closely watched. The stakes are high. Miscalculation could have global consequences. The Indo-Pacific now faces a new era of great power competition. The U.S. is adapting to maintain stability and prosperity in the region. The runway in the Philippines is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. The hope: a credible, resilient posture will keep the peace. In this new era, preparation is the best deterrent.